I thought I had already survived the worst confession. I thought I already knew every woman, every affair, every lie. I was wrong. Because the next confession didn't just break my heart. It completely changed the way I looked at every memory inside our home. There was one lady from church that I noticed he spent a little too much time with. Nothing deep. Just a little more time than everyone else. They talked after church. They ran errands. I told him, "You probably need to create a little more space between you two." He looked doubtful and assured me,
You think I like her? I'm not attracted to her at all. She dated a friend of mine. I could never be with someone else's leftovers.
Not long after that, my phone rang. It was her. She wanted me to know she wasn't trying to come between our marriage. She wasn't interested in my husband. She apologized if anything looked inappropriate. I appreciated the call. I believed her. And honestly, I trusted her. A little while later, he sat me down. He said, "You were right. I was spending too much time with her." My heart sank. But I also felt relieved. Finally, he was admitting I had seen something correctly. He told me he had ended the private conversations, that I would now be included in any counseling texts, that the boundaries had been fixed. About a month later, we were out alone together. Shannon was home as a nanny attending to the kids, and completely out of nowhere, he mentioned her again. He said,
I'm surprised you forgave Hannah so quickly.
I looked at him confused. Forgave her? For what? I reminded him. You said I was right that you two just spent too much time together, and it was inappropriate. He got quiet. Then he said,
It was more than that.
He sat quietly, wanting me to figure it out. My heart sank. I know you're not telling me that you actually slept with her? He didn't argue. He didn't explain. He simply nodded. Everything inside me stopped. I felt embarrassed, angry, humiliated. Not only had he betrayed me, but from the time he told me I was right, she thought I knew about the affair. I screamed at him, "How could you?" He somehow turned it on me, that I made him believe that she would be his new wife, because she was telling him how great he was. And I was arguing with him and not submitting to him like she was. And in my experience, submitting means do everything he says with no question. And even if he asks my opinion, the only right answer is to agree with whatever he said. Since he was the reverend at church, he used scriptures on authority to subdue anyone who did something he didn't like. I was fully aware that this affair was actually clergy abuse. But for some reason, I couldn't see the abuse that was happening to me. I confused his manipulation for persuasiveness. This was one of the most confusing moments of my life. I was devastated. But I had no one to run to. I had moved away from my family. My closest friendships had faded. I knew he didn't like anyone to be involved in the details of our personal lives. So the only person left was the man who caused the pain. That's one of the hardest parts to explain to people about trauma bonding. The person hurting you somehow becomes the same person you look to for comfort. I cried all night. I wanted him to hug me and wipe my tears. He rolled over and went to sleep. I remember staring at the ceiling, wondering how someone could fall asleep while the person beside them was falling apart. From that day on, he reminded me what he had been teaching at church. Forgiveness means releasing the offender from what they did to offend you. He wanted me to forgive immediately. Looking back, I realized forgiveness and rebuilding trust are not the same thing. And back then, I knew something was skewed about this interpretation, but I couldn't prove it. I told him Hannah needed to leave the church. I wasn't trying to punish her. I simply couldn't sit in the same room pretending everything was normal. He refused. He said he didn't want her to feel forced out and go disclose to another reverend what had happened. He said he's seen clergy members go to jail for things like that. I remember thinking, when did protecting everyone else's feelings become more important than protecting mine? Eventually, I couldn't walk into our home without replaying every painful conversation we'd had there. Every telling of an affair, every argument, the feeling of walking on eggshells every time the door opened. I asked if we could move. Maybe a different house would help us create different memories. The children were older and bigger now, and we needed more room. So, Shannon was released as nanny to another family. I thought, maybe this chapter was finally closed. I was wrong. Before long, there was another woman. Another counseling situation. Another friend. This time, I recognized the pattern. I even told him, it feels like every time you meet another woman, you start picking fights with me. He didn't deny it. He smiled. Just for a second. Almost like he knew I'd figured it out. He then told me that he was done being intimate outside of our marriage and I could trust him again. Then he surprised me. He said,
Ask me anything. I'll answer honestly. Whatever you want to know.
I don't know why the first question that came to mind was, is there anyone that you've been with that I still don't know about? He stared at me in disbelief. He paced frantically back and forth and asked, why'd I have to ask that question? I said, because I want to know. Then he quietly said one name. Shannon. The woman I trusted to help care for my children. The woman who had lived in my home. The woman I thought was helping our family. My world shattered, all over again. I wish I could tell you that was the last confession. I wish I could tell you that after everything finally came into the light, things changed. But they didn't. What made me stay? To hear more, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Let me know in the comments when you realized the narcissist in your life couldn't be trusted and you started your journey to empath empowered.